Hello, everybody. Dr. Nikhil Verma here with another edition of Things I Didn't Learn in Med School. Earlier this week, I was having a conversation with an academic physician who is a hospitalist. And our conversation was pretty interesting as I was talking about some of my hobbies and what I like to do on the side. And I was telling her one of the hobbies that I enjoy is going deep into the bro science of medicine. And for those of you who don't know what bro science is, essentially it is a forum based, or it started out as a forum based platform where bodybuilders and body composition individuals would work on finding biohacks to shortcut their end goals. And growing up, I would read these forums, I would read the magazines, more of interest than anything else. Not that I was trying to be a bodybuilder, I had this certain body composition I was trying to achieve, but I just always found it interesting because they seem to find things in their own n equals one experiments that mainstream medicine did not see and does not see. And then come 10, 15 years later, some of these recommendations are now hitting the market and people are shocked that, oh my gosh, they're right. Now, don't get me wrong, there are situations that things were very dangerous and costly and cost lives. And that is why we need nuance and regulation of some of these things. But as this physician and I were talking and we're going more into a conversation, I was telling her during our training in physical medicine and rehabilitation, we talked about supplementation a lot. We talked about it with stroke recovery, stuff like the B vitamins and um, some other supplements that could actually help with stroke recovery, such as amantadine, folate, thiamine, vitamin B12. Sorry, I had to look those up. I had it written down earlier. But we were also talking about the sports medicine portion of our training and talking about creatine. We're talking about branched chain amino acids. We talked about glucosamine and chondroitin as joint protective agents. And in the bone mineralization section, we were talking about in osteoporosis, we're talking about vitamin D, vitamin K, magnesium, calcium. The way that she was looking at me discussing these topics made me question myself for a moment. And then I started thinking of this is where one of the biggest disconnects between where the academic medicine does not meet real life medicine and the real world examples. I will sit here and agree with everybody that supplements are highly unregulated, and that is the nature of how they are. I agree. We don't know the sourcing of a lot of these supplements. We don't know the actual dosage that's on those labels are actually accurate. We don't know what contaminants are in there. We don't know how they interact with medications. We don't know how they might interact with other supplements. We don't know how it's going to interact with the individual. But that isn't to throw the baby out with the bathwater in the situation that there is evidence for lots and lots of supplementation, and we should be using supplements in our day-to-day lives. And if you have a physician who doesn't know anything about supplements, that is a red flag in my book. If they just say supplements don't work, we have shown that the reason that they say supplements don't work is there was one study that was done a while ago, back in the 80s and 90s, where they showed that the individual that took supplementations didn't have any better outcomes than people that didn't take the supplements. And I think it was a multivitamin, and that's a one study that wasn't specific for any goals. So of course, if you have a group of 75-year-old individuals and they all took the same supplementation and some didn't take the supplementation, of course, some of them are just going to naturally pass. But now we're getting more nuance and more into the bro science and more into these things. So creatine, as I discussed earlier, is the poster child of this. Creatine is one of the most studied supplements out there. We know that it can help with muscle mass, and we're starting to see that it can also help with cognition and other metabolic pathways in the body. We also know it's wildly safe to use, even at higher doses, despite what some people in the past would say that it would cause kidney damage. We know that that's not necessarily true. If you already have kidney damage, that's a different story, but it doesn't cause kidney damage based off the studies that we're seeing. So that's a good example. Another example, vitamin D. Vitamin D supplementation is very vital for a lot of our endocrine functioning organs and our overall bone health. We know the upper limits of safety on those. These are supplements again. So who's to say these other supplements aren't out there that can be beneficial? One example that's more new for individuals would be something, or sorry, newer for individuals would be something like magnesium. Magnesium has a lot of buzz and a lot of hype right now. And I agree. There's, I think, over 500 some pathways in the body that magnesium is required for. The problem with magnesium is one, there it is very poorly absorbed through the body. And you need to get up to like 500 grams of magnesium in through the body from different types of magnesium. And that does sometimes cause GI distress. So sometimes you need to titrate yourself up to build your tolerance up to that level. And there's different forms, some that will cross the blood-brain barrier, some that are better for muscles, some that are better for cellular function. And for example, magnesium biglycinate is one that's we highly recommended for relaxation of the muscles and can also cross the blood-brain barrier to help with relaxation. Things like magnesium taurate also helps with the body. Malate can help with cardiovascular function. Magnesium orate. So these are just some examples. Um, and it's starting to become very heavily studied because of all the benefits that it might have. And it's becoming more and more recommended. Of course, magnesium needs to be treated lightly because too much magnesium can cause cardiac dysfunction. Fish oil. Lots and lots of very good studies of the benefits of fish oil. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, several years ago, made this a very, very high yield talking point. But again, fish oil, very highly unregulated. It can become rancid very easily in the wrong environments. It can become oxidized. It doesn't taste good. I get it. And sometimes you need to take very, very high doses for a very long period of time to get those effective doses of cardiovascular benefits, antidepressant benefits, anti inflammatory benefits. Now, the other thing is it can cause blood thinning. So there are risks involved with that. Um, Another example I wanted to bring up as a supplement would be something along the lines of that might not have as much evidence, but could be interesting, would be something like theanine. And theanine is quite frequently added to things with caffeine because it's a natural GABAergic, which helps calm us down, um, modulator. So, quite frequently, if you have too much caffeine and you take L-theanine with it, it can significantly help. B vitamins are heavily studied, but are they absorbed orally very well, or do you need injectables? Do you need a methylated B vitamin because there's about 40% of the population that has the gene variation that doesn't allow us to use unmethylated or non-methylated B12. So I could go on and on about supplementations. I think the point of what I'm trying to make is that there is a major disconnect between the academic sciences and supplementation because they see it's unregulated, unproven. Not everything that's unregulated and unproven is wrong. We know this in exercise science. We know this in science, but that's why we develop studies. And the problem is in the supplement world, we can't get high enough powered studies, just like diet studies. We can't get high enough powered studies to show a meaningful difference. But what we can do is look at the mechanism of action, see how it interacts with the body, and see what the end results are. I'll give you a couple more examples of things that I'm bullish on. Things like taurine is something that was in the bro science many years ago and is continuing to show lots and lots of good data behind it. Followed by nattokinase, which helps with cardiac function. It helps loosen up some of the plaques in the walls of the vessels. Now, when I say they do, I say they may help because that's all we can claim supplements do. They may assist or they may help. We can't actually make claims that they actually do anything. But I think it's important to look into these things and see how they function. And I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily the right thing to have these doctors be fully read up on it and prescribing just supplements. I think supplements are just that. They supplement your diet, they supplement your lifestyle, they supplement your sleeping habits. They're additives. They're not to take over and they're not going to save you. Things like statins will save you from cardiac vascular events. Now, there's side effects of statins for sure. I get that. But the idea is there. I'm also very bullish on things like mitochondrial health. I have a few Substacks and I will make future videos all about mitochondrial health and how complex it is. People just injecting NAD plus is they're just missing the point because NAD plus is one small molecule in the entire pathway of mitochondrial function. You can't just add more substrate at the beginning and expect end results to be highly effective. That's just not how it works. You need to have all the cofactors, all the other micro elements in there to make that same result. Um, so there's my soapbox for the day. I think it's very important that people understand this. And I don't know, I almost feel bad that a physician would look at me the way that she did based off of what there seems to be some evidence, maybe not highly controlled, double blind, placebo controlled studies. I get that. But if nothing else, if one of my loved ones is going through something, I'm going to go find what supplements might help as well as their preferred medication treatment. The last thing I will say, and I want everybody to listen to me on this one. If you're taking a creatine gummy, you need to stop now. Two reasons. One, study after study has shown that only 40 or 50% of those gummies actually have any creatine in them, especially at the levels that were recommended. Number two is creatine degrades in a environment that has moisture. Gummies are moisture environments. So the longer it sits in your pouch or your tube, it will become zero creatine in there at some point. This has been shown over and over again. So I do hope you, if you're taking a creatine gummy, that you listen to my words there. All right, everyone. I hope you found this useful and well. This is not medical advice. This is simply for educational purposes. I hope that everybody understands that working with somebody that understands supplements is going to be beneficial for your long-term health. I also wouldn't recommend going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in supplements a month. I would say find your goals, what goals that are important to you, or if you have a condition that might benefit, find someone that understands it and does the nuanced research and listens to the bro science, and then goes and looks at the papers, and then goes and looks at the mechanisms of action to make sure that you're living your best life. All right, I hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions, comments, please drop them below. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.